Today's topic is aortic wall or aortic stenosis. Basically, it's a disease of the aortic wall which is occur because of the narrowing of the aortic wall, which results in the obstruction of the blood flow which is going from the left ventricle to the ascending aorta during a systole. The systole is a time period when the contraction is occurring, and this obstruction will lead to a larger pressure into the left ventricle, which leads to the aortic wall, results in the narrowing, which causes the obstruction to be more. That is basically occur in the aortic stenosis. When there is narrowing of the aortic wall take place, it could be because of many other reasons, so we're going to learn about it. If it is occurring in a infant, or if it is having a congenital, then it could be a congenital aortic stenosis, or it could be a congenital subvalvular aortic stenosis or supravalvular aortic stenosis. If it's occurring in a young adult, it will be because of an calcification and fibrosis of the bicuspid AV rheumatic aortic stenosis. Now we're going to learn it about how it will develop in a middle age to an elderly person because of a senile degeneration of the aortic walls, or because of calcification of the bicuspid wall, or it might occur because of rheumatic aortic stenosis. So these are the causes because of which the aortic stenosis is developing. Either it because of the pathologically reasons like the calcification, the rheumatic aortic stenosis, or the senile degeneration, or the it could be occur because of the congenital causes that a person is born with these defects. Now there is a beautiful image which is showing you the Williams syndrome, which basically seen in a person who is having aortic stenosis, that the person is having a supranasal nasal bridge, which we can see in that there is a beautifully explained and depicted bridge is formed. Then we can see then there is the epicanthal fold over the eyelid. We can see it from the picture also. Then we can see a small chin of that person. There is going to be a prominent lower lip also. So these are the beautifully explained aortic stenosis changes in Williams syndrome. Now we're going to learn about the pathophysiology of aortic syndrome stenosis. That is, the valvular obstruction is occurring. It leads to the increase in intraventricular pressure, which leads to maintain the CO. Now there is ventricular wall hypertrophy, which reduces the wall stress. Now it will lead to left ventricle hypertrophy, which leads to the decrease in compliance and impaired passive filling, which leads to the preload dependence on the atrial contraction. Now this increase in left ventricular irregulated DP, it leads to the subendocardial ischemia, which is decrease in myocardial perfusion. Now we're going to learn about some of the symptoms. So the classical symptom of any aortic stenosis are a heart failure, a syncope, and angina. Syncope is a period of unconsciousness. So here these are the classical symptoms of an end stage disease. Now we have earlier diagnosed the ECG and the prospective following of the patient. The most common presenting symptoms are the dyspnea, that is breathlessness after exertion, on decreased exercise tolerance. So now there is an exertional dizziness also in the patient, and the patient also complained of about exertional angina. Now there is dyspnea and decreased exercise tolerance. So the most common symptom of aortic stenosis is basically dyspnea, that is breathlessness on exertion. So there are two factors which contribute to it, that is diastolic dysfunction with an increase in left ventricular filling, the pressure with the exercise, and the instability to the left ventricle to the increase in the CO, that is the cardiac output during the exercise. Now there is systolic left ventricular dysfunction, which is occurring. It's very rare, and if HF is rate, that is the heart failure is late, the end stage finding, usually it going to be require a regular medical care. Now the heart failure occur if the patient may complain of SOB, easily fatigue, debilation, and other conditions. Now atrial stenosis fibrillation, which is uncommon in isolated atrial syndrome. Now we're going to learn about how we're going to examine a patient with aortic stenosis. So as we know, this first step is inspection. So we're going to inspect the carotid pulse. So we're going to check the arterial pulse. We're going to show a parvus and tardius, that the small or weak rises slowly. And there is going to be the best appreciated in the carotid artery, where the pulse is reduced in amplitude and it is delayed in occurrence. So the delay is basically appreciated by the simultaneous palpitations of the apex and the carotid artery. So these are the facts. Now there is also a shuddering also going to be there, that is carotid artery thrill. Now the palpitation is there, which is the palpitation of precordium. We're going to palpate the apex of the cardiac impulse, and initially we're going to find it is normal in its location, and however it become displaced late in the course of aortic stenosis. That is when left ventricular failure occur. So the asystolic thrill, which is at the base of the heart of the second sounds, is essentially during full expiration with the patent leaning forward. So this is the basic step we're going to do on palpitation of person. Now auscultation, we're going to hear the following heart sounds. The S2 of the heart sound will be soft and single A2, with the S2 will be paradoxically split when the stenosis is severe. With the increasing severe or the fixed aortic stenosis, the A2 closing sound may disappear. So the presence of normal split S2 is the most reliable finding to find the severe or the moderate aortic stenosis in an adult. So the S1 is usually normal. However, an aortic ejection reflex, which is more commonly heard when a congenital bicuspid valve, may be heard after S1. So the vigorous left atrium contraction, it will lead to the S4. Now the aortic stenosis murmur, that is a hallmark finding, that is the characteristic finding, is the crescendo-descendo ejection murmur, which is you can only see in aortic stenosis. It is the heart beat with the diaphragm of the stethoscope at the right upper sternal border when a patient is sitting upright leaning forward. So the murmur typically radiates to one or both carotid arteries and has a harsh or grating quality. The intensity of the systolic murmur doesn't correspond to the severity of aortic stenosis. Rather, the timing of the peak and the duration of the murmur correspond to the severity of aortic stenosis. Now, in elderly patient with having a calcified aortic stenosis, the murmur is going to be prominent at the apex because of the radiation of its high frequency components. This may lead to its misinterpretation as a murmur of mitral regurgitation. So the murmur is soft when stenosis is less severe, and it grows as louder as the stenosis progresses and becomes longer and peak in the volume later in the systoles. As the left ventricular contractility decreases, the aortic stenosis critically at this point becomes the softer and the shorter. The intensities of the murmur may therefore be misleading in these circumstances. So hence we have to remember the crescendo-descendo type of murmur, which is characteristically seen in the aortic stenosis and its process. We have to remember these terms for the purpose of remembering aortic stenosis murmur. Now the murmur of aortic stenosis is basically increases as the maneuver increases. That is, the left volume increases and the contractility, it will lead to the decrease in the maneuver that decreases the LV volume or increase the afterload. So the dynamic here, the maneuver having the opposite effect on the murmur of hypertrophic cardiomyopathies, which can otherwise resemble that of aortic stenosis. So the murmur of mitral regurgitation is occurring because of the prolapse of the posterior leaflet, which could also mimic as aortic stenosis. Now, a high-pitched diastolic, which is having a blowing murmur, it could be present if the patient has associated aortic regurgitation. Now, the right ventricular failure with the systemic venous congestion or hepatomegaly and edema will proceed to the left ventricular failure, and this is probably due to the bulging of the intraventricular septum into the right ventricle with the impedance in filling. That is the elevated jugular venous pressure, we're going to have it, and a prominent wave which is known as Bernheim effect. So we have to remember the Bernheim effect, which is a very prominent wave. Now the management, how are we going to manage aortic stenosis? So the patient is symptomatic with a severe AS will have a prominent AV replacement. So a person who is coming with a severe aortic stenosis will going to have a AV replacement. While old age, we do not contradict to the valve replacement. So the old age valve replacement could be done. So aortic balloon valvuloplasty is very useful in the congenital conditions of aortic stenosis, but is of no value in old patient with having a calcified aortic stenosis, while the anticoagulants are also given in a patient who having atrial fibrillation, and those also had a valve replacement with a mechanical prosthesis. So this is all about the aortic stenosis. So we have completed the aortic stenosis, its kind of characteristic murmurs, its basically management, and we also learned about why an aortic stenosis is occurring in a congenital condition in an adult or in an elderly patients. So this is all about the management of aortic stenosis, of how we're going to manage the cases of aortic stenosis, how we're going to differentiate aortic stenosis, how we're going to examine a case of aortic stenosis. So we have learned these few things of aortic stenosis. Thank you, and please like and share the video if you like it. Thank you.